all got that link now. Welcome everyone to the SCD Race at Spa. Tonight we've got a full grid for you. And we're just about to now head into the qualifying session. So as the cars head out onto the track now for a 30-minute qualifying session. Let's see who we're going to be pitted against. We've been practicing on this circuit now for about 2 weeks. It's looking pretty damn tight. Everybody putting in lots of consistent lap times. This could be anybody's race. Middle of the field, we expect there to be lots and lots of battles. And as I say, we have actually got a full grid for you today. We've got 13 cars on the grid. It's looking like a very busy circuit already. Rather than having 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races, decided everybody that's available will try and get everybody on track together, as many as possible that were free to take part. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have any issues with internet tonight. I also have to be a bit more careful with my commentary tonight because each driver can actually hear what I'm saying as they are driving. But we will be feeding back as much information as possible about fuel strategies. Especially Paul, who is back and raring to make up for his mistake that he made at Le Mans. Quite famously now amongst the SCD members, losing from 1st position all the way down to 5th position on the final lap. And I can already hear his wife complaining again once again about that. Let's have a look at the stats so far. And we've got an off already, and it's only qualifying. So they're all now on track, onto their quick laps. Raucous Drifter's just been putting in some very quick times in the practice session, as did Terrible Shot. Might have got mixed up between two drivers there. Some of you might recognise this car, the Herbie liveried VW Beetle of Mick, designed by his daughter. And here's Terrible Shot so far, putting in the quickest time in practice earlier on today. Coming round to finish the first lap. And the first lap in from Terrible Shot is a 2:18.1. Let's see whereabouts people are going to be. Chris setting a good time in the Aston. 9/10 short of Terrible Shot. Ricky Rigg, winner of the Le Mans final, currently coming in at 3rd place. And we've got another off. Bit of grass tracking there from the Mercedes of Ricky. Running wide through Pouillon. Tommy now lying in 4th position so far, 3/10 behind the 3rd place car of Ricky Rigg. Tom opts in for an Audi R8. We've got quite a mixed grid at this track. Lots of people have been trying out various cars, seeing what suits the driving styles best. Been lots of last minute changes. Going down the inside, bit of a tap there onto Aaron. That's ruined his lap. Most people have decided to go for proper supercars on this, being supercar driver. Paul decided to go for a Peugeot. Paul Wallace is back racing with us on this one as well, and his beautifully liveried Mercedes. Claims that he's not put in any practice time so far on this race, so it'll be exciting to see how well he does. A few people will be quite happy about that. I'm just hearing something. I'll just turn up my monitors. I think there was a mention of something that needed feeding back to the audience, if that can be repeated. The driving is of a very high standard in this race, I've got to say. Got very little time actually, currently separating from even third place. Let's just have a look at some race timing graphs. So if we look at the live timing, just a second is currently separating fourth down to ninth position. It's really, really quick times. Chris Preston here in the GTR. Quick car on the straights this, who picked up a penalty through Eau Rouge as he heads down the Camel Straight. Joel also putting in a quick time earlier in practice, currently running in 5th, just 3/100ths of a second behind 4th place. A lot of people trying to make advantage of that toe. Raucous Drifter tucking up behind Joel right now. Now watching Aaron. Another one who chose to go for the VW Beetle as his race car. Of course, this race, he's now recovered from COVID, which he was suffering from in the last race. Managed to make a full recovery. Flashing his lights there, not quite sure if that's on purpose or not. Got the minty fresh Porsche of Nethers, currently running in 11th place. Just 8/100ths from Raucous Drifter. So there's just 50 seconds left remaining of the qualifying session for people to cross the line. And then they will be allowed to finish that lap once they've crossed the line. If they cross it within the last 30 seconds. So it turns out Mr. Silk Lightning, that's Chris, has actually put in the quickest time of a 2:17.5. Not the quickest time we have seen today, but we are now in qualifying, so this is the one that counts. Terrible shot, could be on a flyer. Let's see if he can improve on his final lap. Can he take that pole position away from Chris in the Aston? Keeping it tidy through Pouillon. Using all that track, braking late. Into Campus. So we have Mr. Silk Lightning currently in pole position. Terrible shot in second. Tom has improved on his last few laps. He's now up into third position. Ricky Rigg coming in at fourth. Aaron fifth. Mick in the Bright Beetle is parked up on the circuit now in sixth. Chris in the Nissan GTR in seventh. Last few seconds. And here we are ready for the start of the SCD Michelin Spa Race. And they're off! Great start by Chris. Tom coming up the inside in the R8. It's a and it looks like there's lots of contact at turn one. Chris, oh, losing out big style. Now down in last position from pole. I think there was contact from the R8 into turn one. Tom running wide at the top of Eau Rouge. That's giving Speedy Roo a run on him. He's improved, I think, from 7th position. And he's now in the lead. Into Lecon. Lots of corner cut in there. I think Speedy Roo will no doubt get a penalty for that. Tom's run wide out of Lecon. As Ricky Rigg, winner of the Le Mans race and the SCD Michelin final, actually makes it now into the lead. Ooh, Paul Wallace running very wide through Pouillon, losing out to Mick, who again has made it up through the grid. Raucous Drifter now lying in third position, ahead of Paul Wallace, who lost out as he went wide through Pouillon. It's very close in the middle, as Paul in the Peugeot's looking up the back of Speedy Roo in the Aston. It's tight coming up to the chicane, darting around the back. Speedy Roo goes on the defensive, but runs slightly wide. Paul's got a better run on him on the start finish, and he's now up to 6th position. As we're going 2 abreast into turn 1, speedy route. Ooh, there's a bit of contact from Tom. We're currently running in 2nd by Ricky Rigg, who's now pulled out a 2-second lead on the AMG. Putting in a fast first sector time. Not exactly gone to town on that livery, it's just green. Points should be deducted for a poor effort on that race livery. However, he clearly has spent a bit more time on track, getting some practice in. As Raucous Drifter's now chasing down the Beetle of Mick. Again, you'll recognise this car. Some of them have kept with their original cars used in the Le Mans race. Some of them felt the need that they needed to change because their driving skills just weren't good enough to compensate. Aaron now looking up the rear end of Paul Wallace. Seeing if he can tag into the slipstream. Oh, he's massively out of shape. Probably just lacked back from that slipstream. Not able to make the most of that. Terrible shot here, another one that had been looking very promising. Probably caught up in that incident at turn 1. Now running in 8th as he's working his way back up through the pack. Just behind Mr. Silk Lightning, who again was in pole position. Working the way through. As we enter lap 3 of this 16-lap race. Astons appear to be pretty damn quick through sector 1. Tom doing the courteous thing there and pulling over to allow Chris through. Probably making up for that little incident at turn 1. There seems to be quite a lot of contact in turn 1. The back of that Aston Martin is looking rather battle scarred. Tom now getting his toe from Chris, and he will have a terrible shot looking down on him very soon. As he get, ooh, bit of a slide through Pouillon there. Paul seems to have lost a bit of ground here, back in 12th position now, after working his way up through the field earlier. I'm sure Paul will be able to make up a few spaces with a nice short fuel stop. And at the back of the pack we've now got Raucous Drifter and Nethers fighting over 12th position. Fastest lap so far by Ricky Rigg at 2:19.1. A lot slower than some of the times we have been seeing in the practice sessions. And Mr. Silk Lightning now just smashes that with a 2:17.7 at the end of lap 3. And a bit of replace change there. Nether's managing to overtake Raucous Drifter in the chicane. Ricky Rig enjoying a comfortable 3.5 second lead over Mick. Terrible shot now, overtaking Tom. Someone else wanted to make up for some lost ground. Quickest in practice earlier. Tom's keeping onto the back end of that Porsche. Joel's enjoying a nice bit of empty clean track in the other Aston. Proper Aston colours, that silver. Some nice Michelin logos down the side. All cars again are on Michelin tyres, and they will be running both softs and mediums. It would appear that I think everybody has started on softs, which are the better tyres for this circuit. And a lot of people will be making the most of those for as long as possible, so there might be some fuel strategies coming into it. Ooh, bit of a slide for Terrible Shot. The exit of the chicane. As he's chasing down Aaron in the Beetle. Mr. Silk Lightning now up to 3rd position, doing his best to catch Mick and then hopefully get back into 1st position. Such a terrible shot now in the slipstream of Aaron. No, oh, he's gone for an overtake. It's close. Just misses the back end as they both turn in. And there's a slide from Aaron into Brussels. Keeping it together. He's very close now to the back of Paul Wallace's car. Glitching a little bit there from internet connection problems. Car does seem to be jerking on the circuit. And Paul Wallace runs wide again through Pooyong, losing 2 spaces to Aaron and Terrible Shot. Aaron still clinging on to 4th position now. That Porsche bearing down on him. Looks almost like a Porsche race with these two. Both similar colours, both look like a 911. Terrible Shot closing the gap into the chicane. Come down into La Source. Very close. Terrible Shot goes for an overtake into La Source. There's contact. Bit of a nudge there, just a friendly tap as he manages to come through into 4th place to head after Mr. Silk Lightning. Oh, Aaron's on the back end. That Beetle has got some serious straight line speed. as he's towing on to the back. A terrible shot. Wheel to wheel now along the Kemmel Straight into Lecombe. Terrible shot, running slightly wide on the exit. Aaron's not going to let that place go easily. Meanwhile, Chris has closed the gap onto the back of Mick in the other Beetle. I think Terrible Shot has managed just to eke out a comfortable enough gap to get away from that slipstream of Aaron. Chris now really close to the back end of that purple Beetle. And it's close. Surely with the straight line speed of that Beetle, it's going to be difficult for the Aston as they come up Blanchimont. He's on the inside, there's a bit of contact. Both running wide. Chris seems to be through in the Aston. That could all change as they come into the chicane. And there's a bit of contact, meaning Chris runs wide, but he keeps it together, holding that place on the start-finish straight. And now Mick being held up by that little battle. He's now got Terrible Shot in the other Porsche on the back end of him as they come down to Eau Rouge. Let's watch as Herbie accelerates quickly. He's also still in the slipstream of that Aston, so that's going to make it more difficult for Terrible Shot to get back past. These three cars all keeping it nice and tidy through Lecombe. Currently a three-way battle for second. Power of that Beetle being quite useful to keep up with the Aston Martin. He doesn't seem to be pulling a massive lead away just yet, as the Porsche looks. Coming into Campus, he's still close, and the Beetle runs wide. He's over the grass. That allows Terrible Shot through. That's done him a favour. Looked like that was going to be quite a difficult overtake. Mick not giving in there. As we look back, Paul Wallace, after making that mistake at Pouillon, holding on to the back of the Audi of Tom. Is he close enough to make a move? There's the two Beetles now are also quite close together. Aaron having a look but getting a poor run out of the chicane. Paul Wallace having a look coming into La Source as Aaron slides the Beetle round La Source. Paul Wallace having another look at Tom coming into Eau Rouge as he touches the grass. Looks a bit unsettled there, but he might still be able to get a tow down the Kemmel Straight. Got Chris Ibbotson on YouTube saying go on Jonesy. Bit of support coming in. What's that about medium tyres? It's claiming to be a demon on the medium tyres. So hopefully in the next part of this section of the race, after we've had some pit stops, that might start playing in his favour. Aaron seems to have dropped back now slightly from Mick after putting the pressure on for a few laps, as does Paul from the back of Tom. Paul now possibly going to start coming under pressure from Joel in the Aston. Or Chris Preston in the Nissan GTR's enjoying a nice bit of clear space. Speedy Roo keeping it tidy into the chicane. And Mick's into the pits quite early, halfway through the race. It sounds like there's been a slight issue with fueling on Aaron's car. Running in 8th now from a pit stop, having just changed tyres and not being able to take on fuel for some reason. Whether this is an internet related incident. Raucous drifter now catching up to the Peugeot of Paul. And if we look back at the front of the grid, we've got a three-way battle for first, as the Porsche of Terrible Shot and Aston Martin of Chris, Mr. Silk Lightning, has caught up to Ricky Rigg in the Mercedes. Nice to see a battle between three different manufacturers. Terrible Shot had been putting in the quicker times in practice. Seems to be a bit of ghosting going off with Terrible Shot's car there into the chicane. It's very tight. And there's lots of slipstreaming going off on the start-finish straight into La Source. Just 6/10 separating these three cars as they enter Eau Rouge. That's now down to 5/10 separating these three cars as they come onto the Kemmel Straight. Chris in the Aston's now having a look at Terrible Shot, but he's closed the door. Terrible Shot's trying to go around the outside of Ricky Rigg. Mr. Silk Lightning goes around the outside of the Porsche through Le Com as they come into Brussels. Oh, there's a bit of contact to the back of that Mercedes. Terrible Shots now set the fastest lap of 2:17.2. This is a really exciting middle sector to the race. It's now Chris who's on the tail end of that Mercedes. Looking into Campus. Not quite got enough momentum to get around the outside. Little battles left. Terrible shot to catch up once again. But this is some close racing. And Chris is looking around the outside again through Blanchimont. It's so close. 2/10 now separating these three cars. Chris is going on the defensive. And they all come into the pits together. All three cars pitting together. This will be a race that could be won on pit stops. Pit crew's all looking ready. Ricky Riggs in first. Should all now be changing on to mediums. Let's have a look at them. Aaron now into the pits. Terrible shot. Exits the pits just behind the Mercedes. Looks as though I think they have kept the same positions. The Mercedes is quite notoriously good on its fuel. So maybe that's played to the advantage of Ricky Rigg. And the Aston is notoriously bad on fuel, which is why there does seem to be a 1.7 second gap back to the Aston from behind that Porsche. As this battle goes on, no doubt that time will come down, and it is doing. 2/10 have been taken out of that lead that Terrible Shot had over Mr. Silk Lightning. Still watching the battle for first position. This Terrible Shot is all over the back of that green Mercedes. Ricky Rigg, the defending champion after winning the SCD Championship at Le Mans just a few weeks ago. Winning himself a set of Michelin tyres for his Audi R8. Still keeping with the Mercedes in this race. It's close coming into the chicane. Terrible Shot running slightly wide. This is holding him up and allowing Chris to catch up. Terrible Shot slightly outbrakes himself into the chicane, and that gives Chris the chance to, and this has been a spin. Terrible Shot has spun on the exit to the chicane as Chris heads down into La Source. Bit of clear circuit in front and a 2.5 second gap to the back of that Mercedes and first place. Got a message come through for Bryn Jones, who says that he, Raucous Drifter, has got some fantastic experience of winning from the back. Watch this space. Raucous Drifter currently lying in 11th position with Paul flashing his lights. Does seem to be a bit of space now. Tom has been able to make it up for a podium position currently in the Audi R8, running 7.8 seconds behind the Aston, but I'm sure Terrible Shot will be having none of that. With 4 laps left of this race, he'll be wanting to try and hunt down and get back on to at least a podium position. Got a battle here for 5th between Paul, Wallace and Mick. Aaron now running in 7th after holding a strong first start of the race, but having issues with his pit crew, who decided not to fuel him up. I'm sure he will be having some words with them after the race. There will be someone getting sacked. There is talk that there might have been some bribery going off in the pit lane. Tom not too happy about his current position and asked his pit crew to go around and pay a £5 each to Aaron's pit crew, just to misfuel him. Some dirty tricks in this racing game. Side by side with Nethers in the Porsche and Paul in that Peugeot. I guess that's what happens when you bring a Peugeot to a supercar race. Nethers' Porsche, love this livery on it, looking minty fresh. Probably not feeling too minty fresh at the back. Breathing in all the fumes from all the cars that's gone in front. Especially from that diesel Peugeot that Paul's driving, trying to make sure he's got the most economical car on the circuit after his mishap with misfueling. On the plus side, I guess Paul running in 12th position means if he has misfueled, he's not got quite as many spaces to lose. And now we've got Chris, who's managed to bring down that lead of Ricky Riggs. He's on the back of him, looking for a way round through campus. Keeping it tight, holding on to that toe. Ricky Riggs now going to be on the defensive all the way up through Blanchimont. Roman Mayer's watching, saying go Porsche. Not sure if that's a supporter for Aaron in the Beetle or even Mick. Someone's asking, what is this? Can someone please explain? Well, it's an online race for SCD members. Something to keep us still driving in the evenings during lockdown, although we have actually now started posting a few drives once again in the club. Having a few drives out last night. Oh, it's very close through Eau Rouge. This is playing to the advantage of Tom in the R8. The gap by a second in the past 2 laps. Terrible Shot, bringing his gap down to the back of Tom. Also trying to get back onto that podium. It's close between Ricky and Chris. Chris, of course, choosing to go with an Aston because that is the car that he drives in the club. And it seems to be working in his favour. It's been performing well despite that turn 1 shunt putting him right at the back. He's managed to make up the gap all the way through the field 2 to the front, and he's now just 0.5 seconds behind Ricky Rigg in first position. Tom bringing another half a second off the gap in this lap. Is that going to be enough to put him in contention for this first place battle? Terrible Shot has also reduced his gap to the back of Tom by another half a second. Chris taking lots of curb into the chicane. Both come into the source. Ricky taking a more defensive line as Chris gets a better run. Whether he'll be able to make an advantage of that or not through Eau Rouge. It's really not the corner to try and overtake, but he's really close to the back of that Mercedes. Will he be able to get in that tow down the Kemmel straight? Ricky's on the defensive as Chris comes down the outside. Ricky brakes just that bit later, that makes him run wide. Side by side into Lecombe. Still not managing to make it past with just 2 laps remaining. That gap for third position has also come down further as we look back now at Tom and Terrible Shot. You can see that podium just in front of him. Side by side again at the front. Oh, lots of grass for that Aston. Still looking very battle scarred. Just not managing to make it past. Really, really close battle here. This Terrible Shot going to be able to make up that last 1.2 seconds. Chris looking around the outside of Blanchimont as they come up to the chicane. That Mercedes just seems to be that little bit better under braking, killing any advantage that Chris can make up on the straights with the Aston. And there's an Audi R8 looking quite out of shape in the background. We've got 2 overtaking manoeuvres. Terrible Shots on the grass as he comes into La Source and made it through. As side by side into Eau Rouge, Ricky and Chris go, and he makes it past. Can he make it stick as he cuts the corner? Will he pick up a penalty for that? There's a 0.1 second penalty as they're side by side. Chris managing to go on the defensive. And it appears that Tom made it back past Terrible Shot. Can only imagine Terrible Shot made a mistake as he's lost nearly 5 seconds. Side by side again for Chris and Ricky. Oh, and there's contact as Chris is forced wide, but manages to hold position to Ricky Rigg. Terrible Shot now has 2 more Beetles behind him. This is a 3-way Beetle race. Tom's now going to enjoy that bit of empty space on the track. Chris and Ricky still battling it out on the last lap. All the way down to the last corner. As Aaron pulls an overtaking manoeuvre last minute on Mick, the two Beetles. And they're side by side, nearly coming up to the last. And Chris takes the win in front of Ricky Rigg. Tom taking third. Terrible shot. Down in fourth, as the two Beetles of Aaron and Mix take fifth and sixth. Paul Wallace having a slightly messy exit to the chicane as they cross the line in seventh. Chris and Joel quite close together, battling it out to the end in ninth and 10th, in 8th and 9th. Speedy Roo keeping it together for that last corner, slightly sideways on the exit, and across the line for the end of the SCD Michelin race at Spa. Thanks very much for joining us once again. Congratulations to Chris, Mr. Silk Lining, for taking the win today at Spa in his Aston Martin. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you later. Thank you, bye.